Hello everybody, welcome back to Read and Reread. I'm Angelia and today it is time once again for Friday Reads. This week I'm filming it on Thursday because we're going to be out of town tomorrow. So going on a little road trip to visit our in-laws again up in North Texas and see how things are going. And so I'm just going to film this now and have it post up tomorrow. So I hope that you have had a great week, and I want to talk about what I've been reading and a couple other community issues. And if you hear the super loud air conditioner coming off and on, oh well, it's going to be 95 degrees today, so I don't care if it sounds like a supersonic jet is taking off from my roof. That thing is going to be running. First of all, I want to talk about my public library for just a minute. It's summer reading time at the public library, and I did sign up for both of the adult activities. There's two adult summer reading challenges this year. They brought Bookopoly back, where you get like a Monopoly type board that most of them are book challenges. So a book suggested by a friend, a book with an orange cover, read a classic adventure. And then there's also more community oriented ones like attend a library program, take a stroll on the beach, because we're in a beach town. Visit the aquarium or go to a park. You fill out the activities or the books that you read, and you gradually build a beaded bookmark that they give you. And this is the one I did last year. And I don't really need another one of these, but I want to participate just for fun and to support the library, because they keep some very detailed statistics every single time when you sign up, and then every time you go in, they fill out all this stuff. They're keeping really careful track and trying to boost participation and number of patrons, people with library cards. So you have to have a card to do it. And when you sign up, they put your name and your card number and the actual day and time that you signed up. And I'm not sure exactly what they're doing with all that, except to justify the length of the day that they're open, because they put down like I came in at 10:51. Like, okay, whatever you need, I want to help you out with that. The other one is called a passport, and this one has you going around to all the different branches. And if you complete the challenges at each branch, you get a little something. I don't even know. It's supposed to be a surprise. You get something at that branch and you're entered into a bigger drawing. These are I don't know if this is some of the prizes. These are bundle prizes. I want this one. I want the beach canopy. I need a new cooler. This is what I'm aiming for here. I have some nice beach chairs, but I like that chair. I don't need that grill, but I'd like the charger and the canopy, and anyway, that's my favorite bundle. We also went down and attended the library board meeting this week because several books were being challenged, and a call to action kind of went out that I saw in several places on Facebook to come down and make sure that the Library Advisory Board, which recently has managed to, a couple of people, Moms of Liberty people, managed to shoehorn themselves into this board. And historically, the public library here has not suffered tremendously from bans and challenges, but some people that don't necessarily represent the voice of the entire community have weaseled their way into the board. And so this standing room only crowd showed up. About 25 people spoke, and 2 of those people actually spoke in favor of bans or reconsiderations. Everybody else spoke passionately and eloquently in support of the library, the professionals, their integrity. People spoke out for more funding for the library. People spoke personally of the importance of the role of access to materials about health and sex and LGBTQ issues to them. Some people spoke professionally who were professors, a psychiatrist. It was just really, it was a strong meeting. But I found it interesting to hear from everyone, to see the process. I think I'm going to try to be more involved now and attend these monthly meetings to keep tabs on what is going on. So that was interesting, and I was very heartened to see the amount of support of people that showed up. Let's move on to books and shows. Right now we're watching 2 things. We're watching season 3 of Hacks. So we kind of, we try to keep a comedy show and a more serious show going. So we're watching Hacks, and which has been a kind of uneven so far. There'll be a good episode and then a not so great episode, but comedies kind of roll like that a lot of times, I find. And then we're also watching The Alienist. I can't remember if I mentioned this last time, but we started watching The Alienist because the car brought it back to our attention and that we had never seen it. We both read the book, we hadn't seen it, and we both forgot the book enough that we don't know. The mystery has been mysterious. It's pretty dark, it's pretty creepy. I kind of forgotten about the darker aspects of the main characters, especially Laszlo Chrysler. Is that his name? Anyway, the doctor. He's kind of messed up, but in an interesting way. All right, so that brings us to the books. I have several books to talk about. There's one main star of the show, and you can probably guess what it is if you know me or you've seen any other channels talking about this book. But I'm going to get to it, and I will try to remain spoiler-free and keep my plot comments light. But first of all, I was finishing, when last we spoke, I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpman, and it was translated by Schwarz. And I kind of love this. This was really intriguing. And this was a book I talked about a little bit last time, but I can't say much about the plot without giving away some of the surprises that make the book what it is. It is a short novel. It is translated from the French, as I mentioned, and it is about 40 women who live in a cage down in some kind of a bunker. And the youngest one is the narrator. And when they were all brought in there, they had other regular lives, and they didn't know each other. They didn't come from the same town or anything. And at some point, some years previously, they were all collected and brought to this large cage. They have electricity, they have running water, they receive food every day, but there's very strict rules. There's a group of 3 men patrolling outside the cage at all times with whips, and if somebody breaks the rules, they flick this whip at them. No one can consciously remember actually being hit or tortured, but there's this collective fear of the men and their whips where they don't cross these boundaries. The men never speak to them. The women are not allowed to physically contact each other in any way. They can't touch, they can't hug, they can talk to each other, they're not allowed to fight, they have to keep everything. They've learned how to have arguments while appearing to be calm and placid, and they have very, very hazy memories of their previous lives or how they got here. They can't explain it very well. The youngest one was a small child when they arrived, and they think she got put in there by accident because everyone else was an adult woman. And she has grown up with no knowledge of anything but this setting. And she is the one telling us this story from a later point in life. And so that is the setup. It is speculative fiction. It is really strange. It is full of questions and mysteries and unexplained and ambiguous situations. And there are some things that happen that so I can't tell you. That's all I can tell you is the beginning setup. And the fact that our young narrator hits her teens, and like every teenager everywhere of all time, she starts to have questions, and she starts to rebel and want to test the limits of the society and shake things up. But this was good. I'd love to talk more about it in a spoilery way with people who've actually read it, because there was just and then all these things I'm telling you, it's not really what the story is about. So the themes and the questions about people finding purpose in life, it's like that's a whole different thing. But I love this book. Then I also read a book that was kind of disappointing. I'm going to kind of get that one out of the way before I get to the star of the show. But I did read The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Chlobosky, and I read this for my band book club at the public library. And I'm leaving all my little tabs in there right now because I am going to go to that meeting to talk about the book. And it's going to be interesting to hear, because I don't know I never know who all is going to show up to these meetings, and whether or not we are all going to be people that read this as older than the target age group. And this is a book that came out in 1999, so I was already over the target age group when it came out. So I did not read this as a young adult. I only read it now, and it did not live up to my expectations. I've seen the movie. I really did enjoy the movie, and this is a very rare occasion. So here it is on camera, me saying I thought the movie was better than the book in this case. The book was just okay. It seemed like it's narrated by a boy named Charlie, and it's in an epistolary form. He's writing letters to an unknown person, and that in itself never makes a whole lot of sense unless it's supposed to be an imaginary person. And Charlie he's dealing with a lot of things simultaneously. He has some old unresolved grief and trauma, and then he has his current awkwardness and uncertainty about going into high school. And rather improbably, he becomes really good friends with a group of seniors, even though he's an incoming freshman. But his voice and the things that he's naive about make him sound more like he's about 12. So it was kind of off. Like, he just seemed really even more clueless than the average high school freshman. But then, and they also stuff in every possible teen problem or conflict that has ever happened in the history of teenagers. All happens to Charlie. I mean, every single thing. And now, I did think it did a good job of portraying anxiety, mental illness, disassociation, those kind of things that he experiences. I thought they rang true to me, but his overall character didn't seem quite age appropriate. And then the fact that he is a stellar student who maintains straight A's while he is kind of having a breakdown and drinking and getting high a lot, and all these things are going on. I was like, really? What a remarkable kid. So I had issues. I thought the movie resolved some of those issues and made Charlie, and the actors did a great job in the movie. Charlie was credible to me. I didn't think any of these things when I saw the movie that I thought when I read the book. And I also found it to be highly derivative of, yes, Catcher in the Rye. I'm not going to say anything more about that, but that's how it felt. Okay, so enough with that. But of course, I supported, I don't think it should be a banned book. I didn't think anything in there, even though they stuffed a million things in, I thought they all are things that happen to high school students or that people are experiencing or experimenting with. I mean, it wasn't anything in there I thought shouldn't be there. I just thought, I didn't know why it all had to be there all at once. Like quite a school year Charlie had. Okay, moving on. So never mind about so-so books. Let's talk about an excellent book, and that was Long Island by Colm Toibin. Let's talk first about the fact that this is a sequel to Brooklyn. And I think that there's probably going to be a fair amount of people who pick this book up and read it without reading Brooklyn because of the Oprah effect. And Colm Toibin does put in enough little quick summary-ish comments or breadcrumbs that I think you could definitely read this and have a really solid experience and really enjoy this book without reading Brooklyn. But I do not recommend it. If you have not read Brooklyn, I do advise you start there, because there are so many things, especially about the characters, Eilish, Tony, Jim, Eilish's mother, everybody in the 20 years before, and then just the narrative structure of, in the first book, we begin in Ireland. Eilish moves to Brooklyn as a very young woman, maybe about 20 years old, and she's very homesick, but she navigates, she gets her first job, she's living on her own in a boarding house, she meets a guy, you know, all of these things, and then she goes back home to Ireland because of a death in the family for a while. In this one, she begins in Long Island, where she has been living. She is now in her 40s. She's married. She has 2 children. Then she goes back to Ireland. And so there's this, there's just something satisfying about the 2 places and Eilish's journeys and what she's experiencing. And if you only read one book. It's still going to be good, but it's kind of like, you know, think about a croissant and all of the good flaky, buttery layers. And if you slice that croissant lengthwise and you only eat one half of it, it's still going to be really tasty, but you have missed out on half of the layers and part of just all of the richness. So I say eat the entire croissant, just devote the time to read Brooklyn first and then read Long Island. So in this book, it is about Eilish once again, and at the very beginning, in the first couple of pages, a bombshell is dropped into her world. She's living in Long Island. She's living in this cul-de-sac with her extended Italian in-law family. And they're all, you know, once again, she's moved out of a small town where everybody knows everybody else's business. And then she's married into this family where everybody knows everybody else's business. But she's kind of carved herself a little personal niche. She is a trained bookkeeper. And so she has a job. And she's a fiercely private and introspective person. So Eilish in both of these books is always struggling for some space for her thoughts and her mind, and she's not fast to make decisions. She's not fast to make remarks. She can be really frustrating to other characters and to the reader when she won't give any snap answers. She will say, I'll get back to you on that, and she may or may not ever get back to you on that. That's just how her character is. It's really interesting to see those consistencies played out across two novels and across a 20-year span. And so anyway, Eilish finds out something, and it upsets the status quo, and this kind of propels her to make a decision to go back and visit her mother in Ireland. Her mother's about to turn 80, so she's going to go visit for the occasion of her 80th birthday, and just buy herself a little time and space away from the family while she thinks through something that has occurred. While she's there, old unfinished business gets ruffled back up. And if you have read Brooklyn, you might think about what that could be. And it's just, I loved reconnecting with these characters. Eilish's mother, you know, she's a little weird in the first book, and as many people do, the idiosyncrasies and the odd tendencies kind of deepen and ripen with age. And she comes out with some really weird ones in this book that I just loved it. I mean, Colm Toibin writes women really well, and he writes older, kind of difficult or cranky or offbeat women really, really well. They're realistic. They're hard to deal with. They're fascinating. And so I really enjoyed that. And this book, I'm trying to be very careful here, but the ending of this book, the things that happen right towards the end, they reminded me so much of another book I love that is a classic book from the early 20th century. I'm not going to tell you which one it is, but if you read this and you want to somehow message me somewhere, we can talk about it. But when I got to a certain point, I was like, oh, it's blank. You know, it just reminded me so much of it in a good way. There's a little difference in the feel. Like the first book, Brooklyn, is very low key. It's one of my quiet gems. The things that happen are seismic changes for Eilish, but they're nothing that extreme in the plot. And this one, it's also subtle, but somehow without anything unrealistic or melodramatic happening, it's really dramatic and suspenseful. It's hard to read it slowly because the plot is more tense in this book. From the first page, it's like, oh no, and you just, so it will bear another reading to slow down and savor the language. I'm going to read one tiny little paragraph that I loved from the very beginning of this book that gives nothing away. This is actually on just maybe the second or third page. Eilish is at home in Long Island. A man comes to the door. Here's his description. You are Eilish Fiorello? The accent was Irish, with a trace, she thought, of Donegal, like a teacher she'd had in school. Also, the way the man stood there, as though waiting to be challenged, reminded her of home. I mean, right there, I was like, I had the good book tingles right as soon as that happened. You know, the way it made me feel was kind of like the Tom Lake-ish feeling, where you read the first couple pages and you just think, ooh, it's gonna be a good one. And anyway, it was great. I loved it. It was too short. I want novels about every other character in this book. I want novels about Frank, Larry, Rosella, the old lady that had the property, the overpriced property. I want books about Eilish's mom when she was younger, and also in her life during the time when she was at home by herself. I just want extra books about all of these people. So I hope I get some of those. May my wish come true. All right, so that was great. Now what? Oh my gosh. Okay, what am I currently reading? Well, I'm not going to pick this up because it's my giant Riverside Shakespeare, but I am currently reading Love's Labour's Lost by William Shakespeare, and I'm about halfway through. I'm enjoying it. I'm going to set it aside because I'm not bringing that giant book with me on my trip, and I'll come back to it, and we'll be discussing that in the Bard Room on Melinda's channel, Web of Stories, in her Discord. And then also, I'm going to start and take with me these two books. And these are both buddy reads that I'm going to be having with Michael Clark. But we're going to read Harriet the Spy, which was published in 1964. I loved this when I was a kid. I remember being about 10, 11, reading this a few times. Maybe I was younger. I don't know. 4th, 5th grade, 9, 10. I remember reading this a few times, but I don't think I've read it since. I don't know if I ever read it as an adult, as a teacher. I don't know how up-to-date, out-of-date, timeless, not it's going to be, but I'm here to reread Harriet the Spy. And I have not ever seen any of the shows or movies of Harriet the Spy. And then the other one we're going to start is Blackouts by Justin Torres, winner of the National Book Award last year. And I've talked about seeing him recently at the San Antonio Book Festival. This one, I think, this one might be kind of fun and breezy. And this one's going to be more challenging. So I think this will be a great one for having a reading partner to discuss along the way. And so that is what is coming up. And what are you going to read this weekend? What did you read this week? Have you read Long Island? Are you going to read it? Any of these books? Some other books? Let me know, and I hope that you have an excellent weekend, and I will be back. I probably will not have a Tuesday video because I think we will be traveling back that day, so it might be a Wednesday video instead, but I'll keep you posted. So see you soon. Bye-bye.